Warning, the Stone Age Gamer includes a lot of bad language. Cover your mother ears.
Good evening and welcome to the Stone Age Gamer Podcast. I'm Kris Randazzo and joining me tonight is the hero of wins, Dan Ryan.
I mean, every week you come up with just more and more apt ways to describe me.
It's never been wrong.
It's never been wrong.
With the 35th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda upon us, and Nintendo doing pretty much nothing about it, Dan and I have decided to rank the entire franchise, which I'm sure will go smoothly. Don't forget to update your script, because the Stone Age Gamer Podcast starts now. Hey.
Well done.
Thanks. Got a little meta there. We had a couple of listeners chime in on how funny it was that I forgot to do it several weeks in a row. Hi, everyone. This is episode 348. It's the week of March 5th, 2021, and it's been a magical evening so far.
So, all right. So what happened?
All right. So we sat down. We pressed record. I started hearing my daughter. She's supposed to have been in bed for at least a half hour by now, and clearly, that's not a good thing. that she's downstairs. Sounded kind of like crying. Go upstairs. Earlier this evening, yesterday, she had a sip of Yoo-Hoo from she went to the park and somebody had Yoo-Hoo and she drank some. And so she decided...
Like some randos Yoo-Hoo?
There were others out there. Like, here is one for you. Not like, let me have a sip of your drink. Like, oh, here's one for you. So she had some. She really liked it. She wanted chocolate milk. So this evening, she had her first proper glass of chocolate milk. And she drank the whole thing. And clearly, not within a decent amount of time, it stopped agreeing with her. She came downstairs and barfed all over the bathroom. So I went upstairs, and I immediately smelled what happened. And she's crying, so I settled her down and took her upstairs. And she was like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to clean up the barf or do you want to put her back to bed? I'm like, I'll put the kid back to bed.
Can I choose neither? Can I do neither of those things? Because that's what I want to do. Neither.
So I brought her upstairs and I put her back to bed and she's really upset because, well, first I got her new pants because she barfed on her pants. And then I made her laugh a couple of times and then she wanted to run downstairs. She's like, well, where are you going? She's like, I want to see Mommy clean up the barf. I was like, whoa.
I like that kid.
Mommy's probably not too thrilled about cleaning up your barf right now. I'm pretty sure she doesn't want a fucking audience.
I mean, I'm not positive that she doesn't want an audience, but I'm pretty sure.
Seeing as Ellie has gotten Karen up at before 6 a.m. for the last 2 days. Now, before 6 a.m. is pretty brutally early for my wife. Yeah. She is not a morning person at all.
To be fair, that is pretty brutally early for anybody. Mm-hmm. That's not cool.
Yeah, so everyone's been tired because Ellie's just been getting up early, and she doesn't want to be alone ever. And I don't know if this is a symptom of the whole coronavirus thing, but you haven't been alone in a year, kid.
Yeah.
You're never alone. You may be in a room where nobody else is in that room, but that's okay.
None of us have been alone in months.
It's been like a year.
It's awful.
It was March, I don't remember March what, when I got laid off from my job and have been home all day, every day since. So
we got sent home from work with a message that said the office would be closed for 2 weeks on March 13th. Yeah. That's 12 days from now. I'm 12 days out from a full calendar year of not being back in the office. Yeah, super weird.
This is going well, huh?
Super weird. Like, it's really, really weird when you put it into that perspective, because I remember at this time last year sitting around going, oh man, this is getting kind of serious around the rest of the world.
Yeah.
That's pretty nuts, huh? I should probably, I don't know, start stockpiling some food or something.
I wonder if we'll be in any way prepared for all of this.
Oh boy. Boy, were we not. And then like a week later, it was like, well, they're shutting down the NBA. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Fucking Rudy Gobert, what a douche. He shouldn't have done that. He was touching microphones and like licking people's eyeballs like just a prick. It's like, man, that's not cool, Rudy. And then like the day after that, they were like, all right, well, the NHL is shutting down. And baseball was just being baseball and being like, fuck it, we're still having spring training. Whatever. We're doing it. And like baseball made the announcement last year during spring training games that they would be shutting down camp because of coronavirus concerns in 2 days. So like they were going to shut down on Saturday. And I remember listening to the Michael K show out in New York, and he was like, if you're shutting down out of coronavirus, why aren't you doing it now? Why are you making an announcement during the game that you're going to do it in a bit? What are you doing? It's a weird look. And then life has been a shit show ever since, Kris.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds about right.
We used to, whenever we would take trips in the car, what is the go-to parent thing when you've got little kids in the car and you want them to shut up for a little bit? Get them a Happy Meal, right? Stop at McDonald's, you're on a road trip, get them a Happy Meal. Every time we used to go on road trips, Penny used to throw up in the car. Like we would intentionally pack a second set of clothes because we knew she was going to throw up. We just assumed she was getting car sick. And then one time we went on a car trip and she didn't throw up. And we realized, we were like, what was different about this particular... Oh, we didn't give her chocolate milk. Yeah. And she never threw up in the car again. She cannot have chocolate milk in the car. She can have it any other minute. She could have it on a roller coaster, maybe. But in the car,
sure, I recommend that, but
it's coming right back out. Oh man,
good times.
Yeah.
All
anyway.
right. Look, we've got a pretty hefty thing to go about in the back half of the episode, and we definitely have some things to talk about in the front too. So let me just get.
I don't have much.
Yeah, no, nothing. There hasn't been anything of note happening in your life.
No, I'm good.
Let me just get mine out of the way real quick. We finished all the Pikmin 3 post-game content. It was super good. I recommend it to anybody who wants to play a game co-op. It's fantastic. Post-game content was great. In fact, Karen liked the Olimar missions more than the main game. And they're very bite-size, they're very focused. They're much more focused than the main game is. It's like, this is what you get, this thing from here to there. That's the mission. Do that thing. Yeah. And then you do that, and I think it was easier for her to wrap her head around. I don't know what I liked better, but they're really good. The new stuff they added, I think, was just great. So, and then I had this overwhelming urge to play Metroid today. So I brought John downstairs and I said, I'm going to introduce you to the Metroid series properly, and we started playing Metroid Zero Mission today. We got through Kraid, and just good times. I could have sat and played
that game's so good.
I could have played it all day, and I forget often because I don't go back to the Game Boy Advance games as much because I remember what they look like on the Game Boy Advance, and I remember what they look like on the Game Boy Player, and I forget how good they look on the Wii U. They really look and play spectacular, and I always forget that. As soon as I booted up Zero Mission, I was like, I just remembered I'm going to get in here, and it's going to be kind of cool looking, but it's going to be all zoomed in, and it's actually, no, this is great. This is really quite good. So we had a hoot playing through that, and that's pretty much it. We were going to start Marvel 3 tonight, but the kids wanted to watch... we only had time for one thing, and the kids have been really enjoying The Dragon Prince on Netflix, so we watched an episode.
Oh, nice.
Show's great.
Are you guys going to get that Raya and the Last Dragon on Friday? Are you going to cough up the $30 for it?
No, we'll just wait. The kids aren't that interested in it, and
really?
I mean, they think it looks neat, but just wait till it's free on Disney Plus in a couple of months. Like, I don't need to cough up some money for it if it's already going to be included in my subscription in a couple of months. Like, we got plenty of movies to get through before that.
That is certainly a fair point. I think we're going to do it because Tiff is obsessed with with Tuk Tuk, that little roly-poly thing that apparently gets giant.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose there's worse things to be obsessed with.
Well, sure. And, I would be okay never going to a movie theater again.
Oh, not me.
I enjoy
so
it.
Much.
Don't get me wrong. I enjoy it. I like the big screen. I like the whole thing. I don't like other people that much.
Yeah, I don't like other people.
So,
but there's a certain. I have often found, and most of the time when we go to the big, like Marvel movies or Star Wars or whatever opening night, usually if you're there on opening night, you're there with enough other people. The majority of the other people are just as into it as you are, so you don't get a bunch of assholes. Or if you go way later in like the middle of the day, then it's cheap and nobody else is in the theater, and you're not there with a bunch of assholes. But any time other than those two very specific times, you are going to wind up with a bunch of clowns making a bunch of noise and trying to like be their own riff tracks.
Yeah, I try to avoid places where kids are because I'm old. Like, there are going to be young people there. I'm not into it. So if I can throw money at Disney and they're like, hey, we'll just keep doing this forever, like, I'm totally cool with that. You know?
I'm cool with that as an option too.
I want Black Widow, god damn it.
Yeah, I want to see that too, but I also really want to see it in the theater. I like seeing my Marvel stuff in theaters. I mean, granted, WandaVision's been pretty gosh dang good not in theaters, so
it's just so good.
I really like that show.
Anyway.
And we finished Ted Lasso. I know this is turning into an episode of this week's episode, but holy crap. We watched all of Ted Lasso in a very limited period of time. That show is just a delight. It is.
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out.
Wonderful. It is so. I was so happy the whole time watching it. It's an absolutely wonderful show. All right, let's talk video games. What happened with you this week? He asks knowingly.
He asks knowingly. Katie and I finished Pikmin 3.
Cool.
So that was pretty cool. We didn't do any of the after mission stuff or whatever. We got distracted by other things because it was like, yes, but new. So let's finish that first. And then let's see. Penny and I finished Little Nightmares 2, which is creepy as shit and not as good as everybody makes it out to be, but still a pretty good game and definitely an enjoyable experience. And then, you were here.
I was
on Friday.
Oh, right before you get into that story, I forgot to mention. Right before the show, I was watching Dean play through my world in Super Mario Maker, and he's going to be doing it for several nights. So I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to watch Dean suffer through my Mario Maker world. That's a good time. Okay, I just wanted to do that before I forgot because I know I would have. Because I already did once.
We definitely all want to watch Dean suffer. So
I just put a link in the show notes in the chat, by the way.
On Friday, so I can properly berate people who are not. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, and like I was out in my office doing some work, and Tiff called me out, and she was like, the trash guys, like, they fucking threw our cans in the street again. Can you come help me? And I was like, first of all, how fucking lazy can you be? There's like 2 trash cans out there. Just pick them up. But second of all, our trash guys do have a tendency to just kind of throw our shit around. Like, they do it up and down the block. And I was like, oh, God damn it. Like, I was getting mad. And she had to, she came back in to yell at me to go out there. And I was like, I'll be there in a minute. Damn it. I'm busy. I don't want to go outside. It's fucking cold and got to pick up trash. Like, I'm pissed. I was pissed about it. And then I walked out and you were sitting there, which I thought was weird.
That was the idea, by the way. She wanted to come up with something that would bring you outside angrily.
Well, that was it. That was, I mean...
First she wanted it to say it was raccoons had gotten in the garbage and thrown the garbage all over the place. But then she decided it was more believable that the garbage men did it because they do it all the time. She told me a similar story, but...
Yeah. Well, and we don't have... I mean, we have raccoons around here. Like, I had to go knock on my neighbor's house. Like... right after the pandemic hit, I had to go knock next door and be like, so my wife was outside smoking a cigarette, which she doesn't do anymore, thankfully she quit, but she was outside and I was standing with her, and we just saw like a family of raccoons go into your attic. So that, yeah, I mean, you probably want to do something about that. Or not, either way. Bye. I'm going to come drop this bomb on you and then go away. So anyway, short story long, you were there, and just flowery language and things I don't deserve and all of those things. But you surprised me with a PS5, sir, that was a combination of you and our listeners, some of our listeners. No, the overwhelming generosity and love and support that I felt by that gesture is incredibly humbling, and like I made a joke on our Discord that I wanted to say something shitty or acerbic or whatever, but I really can't. It's incredibly touching and incredibly wonderful, and I spend most of my life walking around not recognizing. Recognizing is maybe the wrong word. Not thinking that I deserve these sorts of things to happen to me, because I don't believe that anything that I do in life is special. But other people tell me differently. So I mean, I'm certainly not going to say no. Take it back. So we spent most of the weekend playing PlayStation 5, and it is fucking spectacular. It is so good.
Well, to your point, that I feel like that's an important point to make, is that for you, it's you sit here and you talk to your friend about video games every week, and that's just a fun thing to do. But if you take that out of the equation, you have provided free entertainment, because it's all 100% free entertainment for a very lot of people for years.
Oh, sure.
That's that. Even if you take anything else out of it, I also sometimes feel weird trying to reconcile that, but it's something that I've been told repeatedly, like, you do this show for free and you make this time of my day better, and that's a wonderful thing. So you absolutely do deserve it.
Well, and like I said, I mean, I do appreciate that, like the knowing that we make somebody's day better, right? Really is, as cheesy as it sounds, really is thanks in and of itself. Like knowing that there's somebody out there, even if it was just one person. I mean, thankfully it's more than one person. But even if it was just one other person that got enjoyment out of this show, that was having a shitty day and put this on and were like, I'm going to listen to these two fucking jamokes talk about video games for a little bit, and it brought them some joy into their life, then that is... that's a good thing, right? Like, we should be putting more joy out into the world, and to be gifted a PlayStation 5 with the just ridiculous rigmarole that apparently all of you had to go through to get one is just that much more special.
Well, I mean, obviously we did it because we love you. So let's talk about the unfathomable girth of that thing.
Oh my God. It's so big.
I was not prepared. I felt like I had this idea in my head of what this much... You see pictures of it, and it's just... I mean, I don't know if it looks big in pictures. Big in pictures. Does. But I mean... I took a picture at Dan's house when we opened up the box. I held it up to the microwave, and it was approximately the same size.
It really was.
I was holding the box too, right? As if it's the size of a video game console box, but like it was almost all console in there.
It really was, and I really am. Like, I am so happy that you were here to experience that with me, because it is stupid. It's dumb how big that fucking thing is.
And what did Tiff say? This is why fat chicks don't wear white or something?
Yeah, yeah, right. Because it doesn't hide anything. There is no disguising that is a big motherfucking console. But what I will tell you is that it has been on a lot since Friday.
It's a lot quieter.
It is quiet.
I wish I had asked you to turn on your PS4. I forgot about it until you'd already unhooked it. I wanted to hear the jet engine in person, but so I don't know if Dan ever mentioned this on the show, but he has like the top of his PS4 was removable. So he would take it off and there's just the fan was all just, it was amazing.
Yeah, like in an effort to keep it cooler, I ripped the top of my PlayStation 4 Pro off because I saw online that was how you got in there to clean it. I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'll just pop this up and I'll clean it up in there. That didn't make much of a difference. So I was like, I mean, in my mind, if the heat is getting trapped in here, if I take its top off, it'll be cooler.
But it won't be any less loud, apparently.
It won't be any less loud, but it'll be cooler.
The other piece, like before you get into how it's been on all the time, the other piece that really shocked me was the horizontal stand. Because the thing, like, you need to have a stand on it to to lay it horizontal because it's all curved. So we wound up getting the disc version, right? And I feel like that one's even lumpier. But it was such a weird thing because you had to clip those two little there's like a lip on the back that has all the little PlayStation logos on it. And you have to line up these two plastic claws on either side of that series of PlayStation logos. And then that theoretically sits where it's supposed to keep the thing flat. But that doesn't really stay in place. So when you put that on there and then you try to slide the system where you want it and the stand just pops right back off. The visual design of the PlayStation 5 seems so incredibly poorly thought out to me. But boy, then you turned it on. But it works. Then you turned it on.
Oh, and man.
First, when we took the controller out of the box.
Yeah.
I was not expecting to be as impressed with that controller, but it has a different feel to it, you know? Like, it really, really feels good. That is a nice controller.
It really is. And, like, I remember, I think we talked about it probably, like, back in November or December. Like, I had read a couple of articles where people had said that the biggest upgrade so far with the PlayStation 5 is that the controller is truly next generation.
And I remember scoffing at that
thing.
And
right, because how much better could it actually get? And oh shit, a lot.
Yeah, that is a really nice controller.
Well, because like I went upstairs and put so we had the old PS4, the original PS4 was down in Tiff's crafting room. And the PS4 Pro was in the living room. So as soon as the 5 came in, did a little swapsies, and the Pro went downstairs, and the old 4 went into Penny's room because Katie likes the Switch better. Penny likes the PlayStation because she can play Little Nightmares and whatnot. So I was up there setting stuff up for her, and like I really like the DualShock 4. I think it was a really nice controller. I picked it up and I was like, ugh. God, this is so old and I hate it.
That is exactly what happened to me. I remember I used to like rave about the Wii U Pro controller. And then I picked up the Switch Pro controller and now I go back to the Wii U one. It's like, no. This feels old to me now.
Yeah, it just did. It just that thing really felt new. And the D-pad is great and the buttons are great and the sensitive triggers are great. The rumble is great because we fired up Astro's Playroom, which comes equipped on every PlayStation. And it is a charming, lovely little introduction to all the new shit that the controller can do, which is so smart, right?
Yeah.
I mean, wrap everything that this controller can do, the DualSense, right? Because it's not a DualShock anymore. Now it's the DualSense. So wrap everything that controller can do in a glorified tech demo, but one that is charming. And cause Astrobot's a great little mascot character. And it just really, really worked. I mean, we probably played that for another 2 hours after you left.
Oh, nice.
just running around, and brought the kids down, and they were playing it, and they're like leaning the controller with the motion controls and pulling down the spring, and like they were like, oh my god, I could feel the spring. I was like, yeah, right. It's super weird.
I was pretty impressed with it. I agree with you. He's super cute. I liked how it did have a very Nintendo feel, and we remarked on that. How it was like the way that it was teaching you all the things that the controller can do, and the way that it felt so much tighter than anything Little Big Planet related I had ever touched.
Oh god, yeah.
Like it's nice, and it was very pretty. Just like that home screen was so pretty. We're just looking at the little really twinkles in the background, and it was like, just, this is really pretty.
Well, because that's the absurd thing, right? Like, Tiff and I were sitting there, and like just the night before, we were playing something on the Pro, and it was like, man, I just, because I sit here every couple of days, I've been like, man, I really do want to get a PlayStation 5. I can't imagine how much better the graphics are going to be, but we're watching videos and stuff, and it's like, I mean, yeah, that definitely looks better, but like I'm streaming a video through YouTube that somebody else is streaming through that, so like not getting the highest fidelity here. But it still looks really good. I'm pretty excited about some of these games that are coming out, like Returnal and Kena, and a couple of these other things. I really do want one, but I can't imagine it's going to get that much better. And then after the kids went to bed, I put in Spider-Man and Miles Morales, because you guys got me the bundle that came with Spider-Man Miles Morales. And as soon as I put that in, it was like, I mean, I didn't realize that the PS4 Pro looked like shit. But it does. It's garbage, and nobody should play it. I mean, that game is breathtaking. It is a version of New York City unlike anything I've ever played in a game before. And what's so cool about it is that the story, and I'm not super far into it, because I'm trying to kind of save it, and I'm also going back to finish like PS4 games that I can hear now, like Ghost of Tsushima and shit, because I can actually hear it now. And man, we'll talk about that in a minute. But it takes place at Christmas in New York City, and as someone who lived in New York City, Kris, as disgusting a place as New York can be sometimes, Christmas in New York City is a magical thing.
Yes, I would agree with that.
It's just different, and there's really no way to explain it to anyone who hasn't experienced it, right? Like, it's kind of a hard thing to quantify, of like, you just go to Brooklyn during Christmas and you'll get it. But really, just go to Brooklyn during Christmas and you'll get it. This game captures that feeling. And the way the lighting works with the snow and the storms as you're swinging around the city, and it's fucking snowing, and you're leaving footprints in the snow as you're walking that are happening in real time, and so are all the people walking in the street, and just the Christmas lights that are reflecting off of all the surfaces. It's stunning. And then you get the Rumble feature, which is so much nicer now. And the craziest thing, right? Anybody who's ever been in a subway, not a sandwich shop, but on a subway car, okay? So lots of people have been in a subway sandwich shop. But when you're on a subway car, right, when you're coming up to the stop, you can feel it in your feet, because you get those couple little bumps, right? They're very specifically timed, and you feel like the bump, and then it, and then you slow down, right? And it kind of, you just kind of get there to your stop. I felt that in my hands perfectly as I was riding the subway as Miles. Like, my hands felt the same exact thing that I've felt thousands of times on New York City subway cars. And it like, I had to put the controller down for a minute and just kind of stop and be like, I don't know if we should do this. This is so good. I don't know if this technology is okay to exist yet. It's weird, but my goodness, it's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. So then, after Miles Morales, I was like, all right, well, let me see how some of these older games work on the PS5. Ghost of Tsushima looks even better than it did, plays at a solid 60 frames a second. It just moves well, loads unbelievably. That game already loaded fast, and now it's just like, it's on and it's ready to go. It's crazy. And then we booted up God of War, because that just got a patch that was at a 4K 60 frames a second patch. And I thought that game looked great. And it looked so much more incredible and controlled so much more fluidly on the PlayStation 5. It was like playing a brand new game. It was really crazy. And then I put on the Castlevania collection, and that still looked like a Game Boy game. It didn't get any better. But it still looked good, I suppose. You know, it was, oh look, I can make the screen green. But like that, it's so crazy, like how fast that game loaded. It's almost like it was already playing the game before I hit start. Like it was so fast. It was crazy. The next morning, Katie and I decided to play Bug Snacks. Because Bug Snacks was given away as a PS Plus game, like back in November or whatever. And I was like, all right, I gotta check this fucking game out. And it is as weird and quirky as Katamari was when we first played that all those many years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's as good as Katamari, but it is that same level of just weird and creative and inventive. And I don't really know where we're going with the story yet. I do know that there is a character named Beffica, and I love her because she's funny. And then there's another character named Triffany, which is now what I would call my wife for the rest of her days. So Triff is super happy about that. It's like she came down in the morning and Katie and I are sitting there because she slept in and Katie and I are playing Bug Snacks. And Katie was like, all right, well, when mom comes down, you have to call her Triffany and I'll call her Triffany too. And like, we just won't say her. I won't say mom. You won't say Tiff. We'll just call her Triffany. And I was like, yes. That is a great idea. I've trained you very well. And Triff comes walking down the steps in the morning, and Katie's like, good morning, Triffany. And she looks at her like, the fuck did you just say? And I was like, hey, Triff, what's up? And we just called her, and she was like, are you guys saying Triff? First of all, why are you calling me by my name? I hate that. Secondly, are you calling me Triffany? Why are you calling me Triffany? So like, went in and everybody sat down and played Bug Snacks, and it's super weird. And like, there's it's the fucking weirdest game. I don't even have an explanation for what it is that I'm doing or why I am feeding these weird animals to people and turning these people into like half burger, half fuzzy creature thing. I don't know. It's weird, but I like it. And then, God, what else did we play? Oh, we played Maneater. It was another one of the PlayStation Plus games where it's like if Untitled Goose Game, if you could eat the people, that's kind of what Maneater is. You're just a shark, and your object of the game is just to be as shitty of a shark as you possibly can, and just eat everything. And it was awesome. Just running around, jumping out of water, and jumping up on boats, and grabbing people and throwing them back into the water, and then eating a turtle for no fucking reason, and going back up after a boat, and breaching out and scaring all the people off the beach, and then flopping up onto the beach to try and eat a couple of those people. It was great. It was super fun. And then it just, like, we just jumped back in, and it was like, all right, we're gonna flip back and forth between Miles Morales and Ghost of Tsushima, and try to get used to like the new store layout and the new home menu layout, because it's all a little bit different, but it's much more integrated, which is really cool. And then the one feature, the last thing I'll say, because we do have a lot of other shit to talk about tonight. The last thing I will say that I think is really, really cool about this is that since every game that we play now is basically mission structured, right? You're in the middle of an objective. When you hit the little PlayStation button, it pops up a little tile under the game, and it'll give you the title of the mission that you're in, and then it will tell you what your percentage is that you are complete with that objective, and about on average how much time it'll take you to finish it. So like I was getting ready to go to bed last night and I was playing Miles Morales and I'm in the middle of a chapter and I hit the button and it popped up. It's like you're 83% done. It'll take on average about 15 minutes more to complete this objective. I was like, all right, I got 15 minutes. That's awesome. Like I can get to the next logical stopping point in 15 minutes. That is so helpful in open world games, which, you know, every big budget title is now, of like, I got 20 minutes or I got 5 minutes or whatever I have to get this objective. Do I have enough time? Yes or no? Make a decision that way. It's awesome. It's fucking great. I could not be happier.
That's spectacular. I'm very happy to know that it's working out well.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, quiet as a fucking mouse. So, knock on wood.
I mean, I didn't really have any doubts that you would enjoy the PS5. It's kind of why we got it.
Yeah, no, we got you a Series X. We weren't sure, but we could actually get one. So
we were trying to get you PS5 for a while. We eventually decided to get you the Series X. Enjoy.
It's the same thing, right? Enjoy your new Nintendo. Like what? Come on, you guys aren't old. They're all Nintendo games, right?
Oh, good
They
Lord.
all play carts. Yeah, no, it's fucking spectacular, and I love everything about it. And I got to be honest, I love that I didn't have to pay for it. That is makes it so much better because that thing is not fucking cheap.
No, it's not. Well, I tell you, I mean, we're just talking about the Wii U earlier today, and that was bought for me as a gift from crowdfunding friends, and I cherish that system and will for the rest of my days.
Yeah, I mean, I already feel a connection to this, you know, of like just this is something that somebody got for me or multiple somebody's got for me because they wanted me to be happy. So Sony's got a lot of pressure on them to deliver.
They darn well better.
Which I think they're going to. Like, the slate of games that are coming out for PS5, like, because that was one of the weird things about this launch, right? Was that the quote-unquote PS5 games don't really exist yet.
Mm-hmm.
You can get everything on PS4 that you can get on PS5 right now. We're starting to get to that point where we're only seeing some, like, PlayStation 5 stuff. And that is where I think we're really going to start to get blown away by some of these things. And in the interim, there's some really cool looking games coming out. That game, Returnal, I am so fucking excited about that game. And it looks crazy and creepy and weird and all of that stuff. And I am super excited about that Kena Bridge of Spirits game with those cute little puffball things. That looks kind of like a Horizon or a Zelda kind of thing, but with those little puffballs. We watched the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game looks great. And that game's only going to be $40. I can do that. Returnal's going to be $70. Because next-gen games are apparently going to be more money, some of them.
And I'll also say that one of the cool things about this, like, yeah, there's not a ton of PlayStation 5 games like you were talking about, but there is like you mentioned before, there is a noticeable difference between your old PS4 games on this new platform.
Oh, it's huge.
So there's
huge.
Plenty of enjoy catching up on any PS4 games you missed in the best possible light. So that's kind of awesome too.
Yeah, and like it begs the question on some of these of like, I still have to go back and finish Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like we talked about that. I played through a lot of it. I loved it. I just couldn't fucking hear it. So, because it really was that. I really should, next time you come over, I will turn the PlayStation on so you can hear the jet engine that it is, because it's just so absurd. But then they announced that free upgrade for PlayStation 5 that comes with the Yuffie story.
I mean, that's how you do it. That's how I did.
Like, I gotta wait till June now, right?
I mean, that's how I did Soul Reaver back in the day. Remember, I got 10, 15 hours in Soul Reaver on PlayStation, and then they announced the Dreamcast version was coming, and I just stopped. It's like, nope.
Yeah,
I will wait. I'll wait a couple of months and then pick this up on Dreamcast and play it that way. And it was worth it.
That's what I got to do. I mean, there will be stuff to play in the interim.
Yeah, there's no shortage of things for you to fill your time with. So
no, definitely not. I got to beat Kid Dracula.
That you do. That was a fun little game.
It plays slower than I thought it would.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a chonker, but I beat that one on the Castlevania collection. It was a good time, memorable. What was the other thing? That PlayStation PlayStation event that happened. It's
the State of Play.
State of Play. There it is. Jesus Christ, I can't think of names. And then the thing that I was super interested in, I still haven't even looked it up. What was that? Crisis something?
Which
Ever
one was
Crisis? Isn't that the one that's Ever Crisis is a remake of the entire timeline that looks like it's coming out for mobile, and it's like I looked at this one and said,
the
this
Final
is
Fantasy one.
The Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, which is it looks like it's an HD remake of Final Fantasy VII, and not Final Fantasy VII Remake. It looks like it's the battle system.
Remake.
I'm looking at something called Game Per. The battle system harkens back to the original game by using the active time battle. A turn-based combat system requires players to wait for ATB gauge to fully fill. The materia system will also allow... Yeah, so this is like... It's got those chibi graphics, but then you go to the actual battles, and just like in the original Final Fantasy VII, the battle sequences are far more visually intense, and they look like Final Fantasy VII Remake. This is what you put on Switch. Why is this only for mobile? What in the world were you thinking? Like, I know Final Fantasy 15, 14, whatever the road trip one was, they did that kind of chibi-style mobile version, and they eventually ported that to Switch, and that went over pretty well. But this one right here, come on, this is what you do. How in the world did this not, like, immediately get developed for Switch and mobile at the same time? That just strikes me as insane.
I mean, maybe it did. Maybe they're just waiting.
Yeah, maybe. I guess. I don't know. I mean, they got the whole Sephiroth and Smash Brothers thing, like, and I guess you can never truly miss the Final Fantasy VII boat, but it seemed like the time was now. But then again, maybe it's just taking longer to develop the Switch version or something, because it's got to exist. It would just be so foolish for it not to exist.
It really, really would. It's such a huge market, and at this point, such a nostalgic market for them.
Absolutely. I mean, heck, put it on PlayStation as well. I put it everywhere. But
sure,
for this specific one with this like kind of visual style, like the Switch is where the audience is for
Stadia.
That. Like, Stadia.
You know,
good times.
So yeah, this is it's pretty great. I'm pretty excited.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that. But I think we should take a break, right? We ready? Yeah. We're going to take ourselves a break. When we come back, Dan and I are going to rank the entire Zelda franchise. And
strap in.
This is either going to be a really good idea or a really bad idea. I have a feeling this is going to be fun. So,
yeah.
You're listening to the Stone Age Gamer podcast from geekade.com. Stick around.
Listeners, we have an exciting announcement. Mutant Musings is evolving!
For 2021, the Mutant Musings podcast is becoming the Mutant Musings Evolution podcast. But what the heck does that mean?
It means we're going to discuss all 4 seasons of the X-Men Evolution cartoon that aired from 2000 through 2003. All 52 episodes.
So on every episode of Mutant Musings Evolution, we'll discuss 2 or 3 episodes of X-Men Evolution. And we'll be releasing 2 episodes of Mutant Musings Evolution per month, every month of 2021.
Episode 1 of Mutant Musings Evolution will be out on Wednesday, January 6th, 2021.
Then get hyped for Mutant Musings Evolution!
Yay!
Yay!
Hi everyone, Kris here. Do you like weird video game related stuff? Because I sure do, and I have a new show all about it. Stone Age Gaming, featured on the Stone Age Gamer YouTube channel, is a show where I dive deep into the depths of my collection and discuss the strange and wonderful stuff I've amassed over the years. From the Pac-Man telephone to my beloved Nintendo Power Game calendars and beyond, you never know what I'm going to dig up next, and honestly, neither do I. Be sure to check out Stone Age Gaming on the Stone Age Gamer YouTube channel, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and of course, keep playing games. Okay, we are back. We are going to... Alright, so I came across this idea because I've been seeing this on a lot of YouTube channels lately with, I'm ranking every Sunsoft game on the Sega Genesis. And I was like, oh, that sounds like really cool. And then you watch it, and what they're doing is they're saying, like, this game is A tier, this game is D tier, this game is C tier. And then they're not actually, they're ranking them that way. I'm like, no, I want to put these in order. I want to figure them out. Let's see if we can come to some sort of consensus here on where these games go. And this is probably going to be it probably isn't going to go great, but it's going to be fun. We've had a bunch of listeners chime in and give us their lists so far, and I think that's really super cool. So we're going to try to do this in release date order, at least to the best of my knowledge. So, we're going to start with the baseline. So right now, the best game in the franchise, The Legend of Zelda, because it's the only one. The game,
pretty goddamn great.
It really is pretty goddamn great. It is very replayable to this day. Unlike the original Metroid, there's still a lot of value in playing the original Legend of Zelda. Not that the original one's actually been remade, like Metroid, where you can jump into Zero Mission, but when you go back to that era of games, some of them are a little too obtuse for their own good, and I can understand getting away with that with The Legend of Zelda, but I think that it's so well made that even if you can just kind of get through that and maybe even use a little guide or whatever, like, just kind of have fun exploring the world, there's so much to love about this game. It's a freaking masterpiece.
It really is. Like, it is great. You can really see the DNA that's in there that was like, oh, there is a crazy franchise in here. And when you go back, like, if that was not your first one, right, and you go back to it, like, you can see all of that. The roots are there.
Yeah, you can see where it all came from.
Game. Yeah.
It still looks and sounds just wonderful. I definitely prefer the NES version to the Famicom Disk System version.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think it's just because that's where my nostalgic connection is. I think the FM sound that they used in the disc system is a little funky to me, and it sounds neat. I think it sounds better in Metroid than it does in Zelda, but
Sure.
I just think the Zelda one sounds so good on NES. What a great game. Next.
Yeah, best game in the franchise.
There it is.
Good night, folks.
All right, so next up, let's add Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Does this go ahead of or behind The Legend of Zelda?
It has to go behind.
I agree. And I love Zelda 2.
I love it.
Love Zelda 2. But it's got its fair share of issues, and it's a little wonky, and it's a little harder to, I think, recommend to everyone now than the original Legend of Zelda. It's got a different kind of magic, but I do adore this game, and I think that it gets unfairly maligned an awful lot, because this game is not nearly as bad as some people like to say it is, because this is the internet and everything is hyperbole. But
right,
I do think this game is a legit masterpiece.
Hard.
It is.
It is very hard. Like, it is old school Nintendo hard. And when you have a bunch of young boys coming up and playing that shit now, who never played it before when we were kids, it's gonna unfortunately get ranked lower than it should.
Yeah,
because it's hard.
It is hard. It's got there's some things like using spell at the end of that one town to make that building show up, or why does playing the flute in front of the river devil that looks like a chubby spider make it disappear? Like, there are questions to be had, but at the end of the day, it really does all come together very nicely, and it was a really brilliant evolution of The Legend of Zelda. Like, okay, we're going to take this and we're going to turn it into a side-scrolling action game, except the overworld, which is going to be a map, and it's going to be weird. And this was
with some hammers every now and again.
this was definitely a vast improvement over the Disk System version, I think. The one thing the Disk System version gets right over Zelda 2 in America is that you can choose what you want to level up whenever you want to level it up. But everything else, they streamlined this game so well. I do like some of the music, like the sound, a little bit better in the Disk System version, because the NES one has all this like super trill in it. But yeah, we had more bosses. There weren't any there repeat bosses like there were in the Disk System version. There was every single palace looked different. In the original game, they all were gray, and in our game, it was like the original Legend of Zelda, where every one was a different color, and there were even like different tile samples to make the stages out of. And really, it's such a cool game, and a lot of the series mythology was came from here, like the names of the sages and stuff, and Ocarina of Time. They originated in Zelda 2. It's so cool. I love this game.
Yeah, it's a much more important game than I think people sometimes, certainly not our listeners, because our listeners are nerds the way we're nerds about this shit. But, I think it often gets thrown to the wayside. All that being said, definitely behind the original.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I don't think that's I don't even think that's much of a debate there. That's the original game is still the number one. All right, so next up, after Zelda 2, the next one we're going to have to talk about is the Zelda, not Legend of Zelda, the Zelda Game & Watch.
I don't have any experience with it, but I would have to imagine it goes to the back of the pack.
Yeah, I'm going to throw that immediately to the back of the pack. So Zelda Game & Watch is not a bad Game & Watch. It's not a great one either. It takes a lot of cues from the Zelda 2 more than anything, though it does have some like you're collecting all the pieces of the Triforce, but most of the game plays out like an Iron Knuckle battle, which is some of my favorite stuff in Zelda 2 is fighting the Iron Knuckles. Of course, this isn't a Game & Watch, so it's not quite as fluid. But there's like this goblin, and you have to get into a fight with him, like doing either attack high or attack low, or block with your shield. Sometimes things can attack you from behind.
You have to get into a fight with him. You have to go up and insult his mother first, because he doesn't want to fight you.
He's just over there doing his own thing, and you're like, no. Your mother was a snowblower.
We're doing this.
But what makes it even more challenging is sometimes things will attack you from behind, and you gotta like hold your shield behind you while attacking forward, and there will be different numbers of Stalfos underneath you stabbing up through the floor. It's pretty fun. It's not great.
Sure.
As far as Game & Watch games go, it doesn't like. It's not my favorite by any stretch.
Right.
But it's pretty neat. But yeah, it definitely goes in the back of the pack. It's not spectacular, but it's got some really cool art on it. It's one of those dual screen ones, so it looks like a proto DS, which is really cool. Definitely a neat thing to have for any Zelda collector. All right, so this is the first one I think might be of some question, though I don't know that you have much to say about it. The Zelda Nelsonic Game Watch.
No, I'm going to put it above Game & Watch.
You know what? I think that's where I want to put it too.
For no reason, just a gut feeling.
All right, so the Zelda Game Watch. So this was the wristwatch that had a playable LCD Zelda game on it. And this one, I think, feels more like what I would have expected a Zelda Game & Watch to be. It's not... It's top down, so it looks like you're in a dungeon the whole time, and you move around as Link, and you get like a certain number of sword swings, I think, or you fight with an axe or something. You're like fighting these little metal balls, and then you're trying to fight bats or whatever. But it's pretty simplistic, but you have to just go around and fight these bad guys and get keys and open up doors, and it doesn't scroll or anything. It's always the same static background, but it looks like a top-down portable Zelda dungeon quote-unquote crawler. It's a really neat thing, and I think it's a little bit more fun than the Game & Watch.
I was going to say, I got to put it above the Game & Watch just for the chutzpah that it took to do that.
I would agree.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is a neat little thing. All right, so next up, after the Nelsonic Game Watch, we get The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Right to the top.
Right to the top.
not even a question.
Yeah, it's really, there's not a whole lot that I'm going to argue with you on that. That goes right up to the top. I just closed the darn thing that I was looking at. Come on. There it is. Oh, hey, get back. Get back. Stop it. Stop it.
Hey.
All right,
stay over here. Yeah, I mean, we have talked about this game so much, but I mean, watershed gaming moment, man.
We really have mentioned this game a lot, and with good reason, because it changed. Changed everything.
Changed everything.
It brought
the internet will never be the same again. We are cracking the internet in half. All those hyperbolic statements that people make about shit, that is what this game was. It was all of those things, but like actual.
Yeah, 100% agree. It was the rain, right in the story in the beginning. You turn that thing on, the Triforce coming in.
Yep.
Polygons of the Triforce coming in, landing in the middle. Shing, sword comes down, then amazing music is like... I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah. Nope. I like that you wrote a lunk to the past.
I
did. It's a very, very different game.
It's hard to type and talk at the same time. I'm struggling over here. All right, so yeah, easy one. Link to the Past goes right to the top, and that's gonna be a tough one to dethrone, I think, because it's so good. It's unreasonably good.
It's a perfect game.
It really does still hold up today. I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't see a need to remake it. It was like I was talking to John earlier today when we were playing Metroid. We were playing Zero Mission. I was like, so this is what you play now to start playing Metroid. Like, we'll go back and look at the NES one, but if you want to play Metroid from the beginning, this is what you do. Kind of like how I think Samus Returns effectively, not replaces, but, Metroid 2 has now become more of a historical curiosity that's still a very good game and fun to play. I still love it. Absolutely. But if you really just want
to... you go play Samus Returns.
Exactly. But Super Metroid, you don't. Like, Super Metroid doesn't... I don't think that game needs to be remade. I don't think you touch that game. And if you do,
it doesn't, but I could see an argument for that before I could see an argument for A Link to the Past.
The only way that I would accept it, and similar to how I would accept something for A Link to the Past, is similar to what they did for Link's Awakening. Not specifically like turn it into something that looks like a bunch of toys, but like, no, you remake that. Exactly. Right. You might add something where it animates a little nicer going around corners or something, but you don't change it. You don't do a Final Fantasy VII remake. You do that, but with modern graphics and stuff. That's what you do.
Yeah, and Team Ninja definitely has to be the one to do it. Without question.
You really want Team Ninja touching Metroid again? Because I don't.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, this is going to be a challenge. Where does Link's Awakening go?
Right at number 2.
I would agree.
Are we considering... I mean, I think it's number 2 regardless, but are you considering Switch and Game Boy just either or? Is the Switch version the definitive version now?
No, you know what? Let's call that one a different experience. And if I'm in my humble opinion, I put the Switch version above the Game Boy one, because of the item management.
I don't have any experience with the Switch one because I'm a terrible person and I really should. So you can put it in whichever order makes you happy.
Yeah, the only that's. There are things about the original that I like better. There are things about the Switch version that I like better. But as a game to play, the item management is a pain in the ass in Link's Awakening. How you constantly have to pause it and unequip your sword and all that stuff. And the Switch version fixes that and makes the game feel more fun to play. So even if there are some art direction choices that I think aren't what I always imagined them to be from the Game Boy one, overall I'd give it the slight nod. I will say we can lump Link's Awakening and Link's Awakening DX into the same thing, because that is effectively the same thing.
Right. All right, so number 2 is the Switch version. Number 3 is the Game Boy Color version.
It seems my daughter is still awake.
Well, yeah, she's sick.
She's not, though.
Puking. She's not.
She's fine.
But she's going to milk it.
Oh, yeah,
for as much as she can.
All right, so right now we're at Link's Awakening Switch. We're at number 1, A Link to the Past, then Link's Awakening Switch, Link's Awakening, Zelda, Zelda 2, Zelda Watch, Zelda Game & Watch. That's where we're at so far. We skipped ahead for the Link's Awakening, but whatever. Okay. Next, the next released Zelda game was Link, The Faces of Evil.
I didn't even rank these when I did this on my own. Well, no, that's not true. I ranked them all together. It's got to go to the back, right?
I think so. Absolutely.
It's just so absurd.
Right, so there's 3 of these games. And the first 2 were released, I believe, on the same day, which was Link, The Faces of Evil, and Zelda Wand of Gamelon.
Right.
Now, I have spent a decent amount of time with all 3 of these games. I will say that I think Link, The Faces of Evil gets a very slight advantage over Wand of Gamelon, because it's slightly more interesting. I like the fact that you play as Zelda, but really they both play so incredibly similarly, and I think the funnier cutscenes are in Faces of Evil, and Faces of Evil has a better cover.
Well, there you go.
So that's where I'm putting that one.
That is enough of an argument for me.
And Link Faces of Evil was the first one that I saw, which was something else. Wand of Gamelon. And then dead last, and I refuse to let anything go behind it, not that it would happen in any civilized conversation. Zelda's Adventure is the absolute worst.
Yeah. I mean, I had something behind that, but it's not even really fair for me to put it behind it, but...
Because here's the thing. Zelda's Adventure, Link Faces of Evil and Wand of Gamelon, those games are interesting. At their core, you can see that there was something worthwhile happening there. And had it been... I don't know what needed to happen. Was it more time or better developers or whatever? There was the concept of a good game in there. It was like a sort of an evolution of Zelda 2 and what they knew of the Zelda franchise at the time, which was the cartoon. That Friday afternoon cartoon on the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. That was what the people who developed these games, were told The Legend of Zelda was. So, of course,
you can see it.
You absolutely see that through line, and it makes sense. Yeah. Zelda's Adventure has very little in the way of redeemable qualities. It's just awful. It's got hideous load times between every single screen. The game itself is hideous. It's got awful voice acting. It's got no character. It's like, Faces of Evil and Wand of Gamelon are full of personality. Like, you can't argue that. They have a big personality. It's a ridiculous one, but it's a personality.
But it's there.
And Zelda's Adventure doesn't have that. It's very just brown. I hate that game.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's genuinely bad. All 3 of them are genuinely bad, but there's at least you can say Faces of Evil and Wand of Gamelon are interesting, whereas Zelda's Adventure is just...
Yeah, it's almost like the CDI was trying to kill video games. They're like, you know what? People are really liking these video games, and we should fix that.
We should put a stop to that. All right, next up, let's move on to the Nintendo 64. I'm giving up on exact release order. We're just going to kind of do these by platform. So,
okay.
Nintendo 64, we have the Ocarina of Time. I still really like this game. Quite a bit.
Yeah, I would put it, me personally, and I don't love the 3D Zeldas. Like, this is where I start to really lose my my opinion sharing with the rest of the world on this. I would put it behind Link's Awakening, both of them, but ahead of the original.
Really? See, I was honestly thinking a tiny bit lower, but you're probably right.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right to put it... I hate to put it above Legend of Zelda, but then I think about like the ending and the way the story's told and just how important it was at the time. I mean, granted, the original Legend of Zelda was unfathomably important at the time, but God, when I just played through that game again with John and just the whole getting through to the ending and everything with Ganon and Ganondorf and the way it built the mythology, I'll agree with you. Definitely goes behind Link's Awakening. I don't think Ocarina beats Link's Awakening either flavor, but it's kind of tough choosing between above or below the original Legend of Zelda. But
yeah, I think it feels like it has to be above it.
Yeah, it does. It
because it's Ocarina,
and it doesn't have those things that get in the way in the original Legend of Zelda. You know, the original one has those things where it's just, I don't know what to do. Like, oh, I could burn this bush. Like, that's
cool. So now I got to burn every goddamn bush in this game.
Yeah, and like you really don't. But if you want to feel like you're finding everything, you kind of do. And whereas Ocarina of Time, there's very clear, like, this is where you're supposed to go next. Like, you can get stuck, but it's also it's not too hard to figure out what you're supposed to do. And, you know, the way they handled getting those dungeons in 3D was, they still are very fun to play with the exception of the water temple. And even that is just because of the tedious, you know, how long it takes to change the water level. Like, outside of that, it's a perfectly cromulent temple. But,
yeah. Perfectly cromulent temple. There's your episode title. Well done.
Thank you. All right. So I'm comfortable with that. So now where do we put Majora's Mask?
I would... Man, I think for me personally, I would put it below Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link.
That's exactly where I'm putting it. That's
precisely
where I would put it. I appreciate what that game was going for. Just like I appreciate where the Zelda Game & Watch was going, what this Game & Watch was going for, but I just don't think it's all that fun to play.
Yeah.
And this comes from me playing it again pretty recently. I think this game could be truly wonderful with a very modern remake. And I mean, like, do more than what they did with the 3DS. Like, really remake this game. Because
really remake it.
There's a proper something in there. There is. And I guess I understand why people love this game so much. I think people love this game as much as they do because of how ugly it is. How it's like, no, this is intentionally, like, fucked up looking. It's like the way people like The Nightmare Before Christmas. But I don't know, man.
Yeah,
it's just, there's so many characters in this game that are just like looking at you with their mouths hanging open because it looks like their gums are on fire. Like, everyone seems like they have big dental problems. Like, just standing there like, ah! And I don't have any interest in that. There is definitely some heart to be had there, but I just don't think it's fun to play.
Yeah. And I think if people were being honest, a lot of people would feel the same way. But the N64 Zeldas are one of those really, really, like, personal hot button issues for a lot of people, which I don't really understand. I get it a little bit. There's just a very passionate defense.
They were life-changing at the time, you know? There was nothing really like them, and especially when you play them, when we were playing games like the original Zelda and Ninja Gaiden, like, I understand that. But having gotten older, I've been able to look at stuff like the original Zelda and Ninja Gaiden a little bit more objectively, and this one just, it didn't feel good when I first played it, and it doesn't feel all that good now. And I am sorry.
Yeah.
So
we're the only two that are putting it down there, but that's it.
We're the only ones.
Whatever.
All right, so next up we have the dual release of Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. So let's start with Ages. Where do you put Ages?
Honestly, I would put it above Majora's Mask for me.
That's exactly where I would have put it. I cannot believe we're both landing in the same spot for these. It's bugging me out.
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't think that was going to be the case. We're going to differ at some point.
I would assume so, but so yeah, Oracle of Ages, I've come to appreciate it a bit more since we were playing it when me and John were playing it, but he kind of fell off of it, and therefore I haven't gone back to it in a while. But I would like to finish it, and then jump into Seasons. I have problems with it. I do, and I don't think it's as...
Yeah, it's not perfect.
Yeah, and I don't think it's as fun as Zelda 2, and that's really why I put it under... I definitely put it over Majora's Mask, but I put it under Zelda 2 because when you really come down to it, there's parts of Zelda 2 that I think are just so much actual fun to play. There's a really... It's a very exhilarating challenge. In Oracle of Ages, some of the bosses were just like tedious. There's things in there that I just don't want to do, and it also suffers from Link's Awakening's lack of buttons. So you have to do all this inventory swapping all the time, and it's a pain in the ass. So yeah, no, I agree. It sits in the number 7 spot. And Seasons, I think I put behind it.
Yeah, I kind of flip back and forth between those two. Like, I really don't have a strong opinion either way because they really are one game.
Yeah, they do.
They really should be played together.
Yeah, but they are also pretty different experiences, you know? Like, they exist in the same engine with all the same graphics and sounds and everything, but it's a... Seasons, I think, is the one that... Seasons is more combat-focused, and Ages is more puzzle-focused. And I
like the puzzly stuff.
I like the puzzly stuff. But I still think it goes above Majora's Mask. So
I agree 100% on that.
I wonder if anything's going to come in between those two games. That would be weird.
That would be weird.
All right, let's see. Then we have the promotional disc, the Master Quest. Okay. All right, this is where I have to really remove myself because the next game is Wind Waker, and it's my favorite game of all time. But if I remove myself from the equation and think, okay, what is the better game?
Are we counting Wind Waker HD? Does that make a difference?
I'm gonna say that gets lumped in the same thing as like DX because it is effectively the same game. It doesn't fix major problems with the original game. Like
they didn't change anything. Yeah,
they changed a few things. They streamlined some things, but not enough that I would consider it a proper different release. Whereas like the Link's Awakening one is like, no, that's you can't look at those two and be like, yeah, that's different.
Right.
Whereas Wind Waker HD was like, this is this but cleaner. It was definitely remade. The inventory system works better. There's the quick sale. They had to redo the Tingle tuner. So I don't know. I guess we can if you want to.
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think it's different enough.
Yeah, I think with that and Twilight Princess HD, they're going to be... We should lump those together. That's like Link's Awakening and DX.
I think there is a possibility that there will be something that will come in between Switch Awakening and regular Awakening. There's not going to be anything that separates Wind Waker and Wind Waker HD.
Agreed.
You're not going to break those two up.
They're way too similar of an experience.
And they're both number 2.
Yeah, for me personally, it's number 1. But if I'm trying to be objective about it, I'm going to have to agree. A Link to the Past doesn't have the Triforce quest at the end. A Link to the Past is just perfect. So I will agree with you. It sits in the number 2 spot. Wind Waker. It's my favorite game.
I know. That's okay.
But that doesn't mean it's the best. It's my favorite, but that doesn't mean it's the best. Okay. We technically skipped over one, but that's, I guess, not really. We'll just do this one first. Four Swords. The one that came with A Link to the Past. So not Four Swords Adventures, the original Four Swords that was then reissued on the DSiWare as Four Swords Anniversary Edition.
Okay. This is where... So, refresh my memory. Which is the one with the Game Boy connection stuff.
Where you play on
that's
the
Four
TV.
Swords
Where you play on the TV and on the Game Boy Advance, that's Four Swords Adventures. This one was just on Game Boy Advance. It was the multiplayer mode, but it also had its own story in the Game Boy Advance and of the past.
Okay. So just that as a separate game, I would probably throw that below Majora's Mask. I could see the argument for above Majora's Mask, but only in that spot, either above or below. I don't think it...
Yeah, I think it
there's
goes
enough there.
Yeah, it's not meaty enough to go above Majora's Mask. So I would agree with you.
Yeah.
100%. That's where that goes.
Yeah, it's better than the CDI ones. It's better than the Game & Watch stuff.
Yeah,
but it's just not enough of a thing.
It was a great idea, which
it's
was
neat.
Which was then expanded upon in the wonderful Four Swords Adventures, which is where we're going next. But as it stands, just its own original Four Swords. It's a really neat thing, especially when you get 4 people together to play it. But it's not not as clever and really uber. It's not full. You know what I mean? That's where it goes. It sits in our current 11th spot. So then we move on to Four Swords Adventures. Where do we put this one?
This one I would put in the 8th spot behind Zelda 2 because I love it. It's great. It's so fun. It's so fun. If you have 4 people. If you don't, it's not great. It's not fun. Is it better than Oracle of Ages and Seasons? I would argue that when you have all 4 people going, yeah, it is. And since that, I'm trying to take these games for as they were meant to be played.
Yeah, it has the option to play it single player, but that's not the way it was designed. So I think you have to judge it based on its optimal, you have to judge this on being a multiplayer game. And that's why I think you put it, I think it's gotta go.
I can see the argument too, if this makes it easier for you. I could see the argument putting it above Zelda 2 in the 7th spot and bumping everything back 1.
That's where I'm thinking of putting it.
I don't think it gets above Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Link's Awakening, Wind Waker, or Link to the Past, though.
I agree. It's not quite there.
Okay.
But yeah, I think this goes above Zelda 2 just because
it's so fun.
The highs of this game, the memories I have playing this game with my friends, and the way that it makes you work together of okay, you can't see, you are on this ledge, you're shooting arrows, but you can't see where they're landing, so somebody else has to stand over there and tell you, no, go up a little bit, try again, okay, there you go. Those kinds of just genius cooperative things, I think...
Yeah, it's pretty great.
It's really, really high, and I hate to put it above Zelda 2, but... Yeah,
the highs are high.
The high points are really high, and I think about the fun that I had with it, and if I'm comparing the fun of that to the highest fun moments of Zelda 2, I gotta put Four Swords Adventures just above it.
Not by much.
Yeah, not by much, but I do think that it doesn't quite beat Legend of Zelda, where it's Legend of Zelda is just... I was just replaying it last week, and I can replay that game infinitely, just like I can replay Zelda 2. But, man, given the opportunity to play Four Swords Adventures again, it's pretty...
If you can do that proper with 4 people who get it, who like it, that's a whole thing. It's a whole mood.
That game needs to be online.
It's a bop?
That just needs to be online.
Correctly?
That's the solution. Being in the same room would be phenomenal, and you could probably work something like that out with the Switch wirelessly. But as it stands right now, that game just needs to be online, because then everybody has their own screen. And that's
Put it online, let me voice chat.
And that's
enough.
It.
Yep.
This is kind of a tough one. Next game on GameCube. This finishes out the GameCube and technically starts Wii. Twilight Princess. So we've got... This game exists for GameCube, it exists for Wii, and it exists HD. So I feel like the GameCube and the Wii ones are a bit of a wash, right? Because the Wii one has the widescreen, but it also has the motion controls, which are both good and bad. But then the GameCube one is not... It doesn't have a widescreen presentation, but it's button controls. I think the HD one really kind of the best of all worlds. And but it's not an intrinsically different game. It just functions better. So I think that we just judge Twilight Princess HD. And if I were to throw that game on a list, I would put that... I feel like that one belongs... I like it better than Majora's Mask. I like it better than the Oracle games. Do I like it better than Zelda 2? I'm in this mode. I'm in this general vicinity. I'm somewhere between Four Swords Adventures and Zelda 2. It's in that area for me. I don't think it tops the original because it's got all the wolf segments I don't love, and the hunting for those little spirity orb things. You gotta fill up the little pea looking things. I don't know, the pea pods or whatever it was. It's I didn't even finish it when I got the HD version. And
sure.
I'm sure a lot of that had to do with when it came out and the kind of time that I had. And if they put it on Switch, I will absolutely buy it, no questions asked, and give it a proper sit through. There's a lot of stuff I really love about that game, and it also has a phenomenal final boss fight. That last sword fight with Ganon is killer.
For me, see, I am kind of flip-flopping where I want to put this one, because I think the thing that really pushes this up the list for me was that this was what I wanted. You know, Wind Waker's great. This was what I wanted as a modern, quote-unquote, at the time, Legend of Zelda to be. And it was like, oh, there it is. There's the badass thing that I was looking for. The wolf was fucking cool. And then I played it, and I was like, oh, the wolf's maybe not so cool. It looks cool, but there's just some functionality to it that that I don't love. Like, I would put it above Four Swords Adventures, but behind The Legend of Zelda,
which is exactly where I was kind of milling it around, and I think I have to agree with you. I do think its high points are higher than Four Swords Adventures, and even though there are certain aspects of the game that I don't love, there's pieces of the art direction I don't love. It is ambitious, but it still goes behind the original Legend of Zelda for me and Ocarina of Time, because things like the spinner, where you've got this idea, but then you don't reuse it. Like, this is the item, and this item does this, and that's all it does. And Ocarina of Time was like, well, now you're in this dungeon, and you're going to have to use all your shit.
Right.
These are your tools. Let's use all of them. And Twilight Princess kind of fell on that trap of being... But then you got stuff like the double claw shots when you're in that sky temple with the Uchu and fighting the dragon, and that last boss
There's some
fight.
Really cool shit in that
some
game.
really, really, really cool stuff in it. So I do think it tops Four Swords. I don't think it topples the original Legend of Zelda. So Twilight Princess it is.
All right.
So we are at 18 right now. Our current list is A Link to the Past, Wind Waker, Link's Awakening Switch, Link's Awakening, Ocarina of Time, Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess, Four Swords Adventures, Zelda 2, Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, Majora's Mask, Four Swords, Legend of Zelda Nelsonic Game Watch, Legend of Zelda Game & Watch, Link Faces of Evil, Zelda Wand of Gamelon, and Zelda's Adventure. In dead last.
Dead last, where it will stay, kind of.
Okay, let's see. Then we've got Link to the Past on GBA, the NES Classic releases. Okay, Minish Cap. Where do we stand on Minish Cap?
Minish Cap, I think, goes behind Zelda 2, but above the Oracle games, because it was like portable Zelda.
You're kind of freaking me out, because again, that was kind of where I was thinking of
It's
putting
pretty
it.
cool.
But
yeah.
I've never finished it, which I think is, I don't know if it's a reflection on me or a reflection on the game. I almost want to...
I think it's just at the time it came out, like where you were in life. Same thing with me, like where I was in life at that time. Like it just, it's hard. Like some of these games started coming out when it was like, all right, we are trying to have like lives and families and, start careers and that sort of thing. And there's that weird kind of in-between phase where you're not a kid anymore, but you're not like an adult who's doing, big adult things yet, but you're trying, and you just don't have the time to focus towards that kind of shit.
Here's where I want to kind of change this up a little bit, though. Because if I'm comparing it directly to Zelda 2 and the Four Swords Adventures, I almost want to put it above Four Swords Adventures because of how clever it is, and because of the way the kind of it didn't mess with Ganon, really. It was the Vati story, and it was a neat piece of lore, and it was clever, but in ways that the Oracle games weren't. Like, I feel like this one really, really clicked in a way that the Oracle games didn't. But that's only when I'm thinking of directly comparing it to Four Swords Adventures. But then again, I finished Four Swords Adventures. I didn't finish Minish Cap. And that kind of speaks to me a little bit on its overall quality of fun. And I feel like I should like this game more than I do. And that might change when I eventually sit down and really give it a proper shot on my Wii U. But as of right now, no, I think you're 100% right. I think it lands above both Oracle games, but it doesn't quite topple Zelda 2.
Yeah, it feels like almost like it would be ridiculous to put it behind the Oracle games.
Yeah, definitely not. It definitely goes somewhere
kind of where we put Majora's Mask. Like, that feels ridiculous, but I stand by it.
I stand by it too, but the Minish Cap, there's things that I like about this, and I feel like if I really spent the time with it, I would like it more. And that's what kind of makes me think that it might actually belong higher. But if I'm just thinking about...
we're just being honest where we are right now. We can revisit this in 5 years. Yeah, I think it belongs right there in the 10th spot. It's hard for me to say that it's not a better game than Zelda 2, because Zelda 2 has its flaws. I like Zelda 2 better.
But remember, it's not about what we like better. It's about what we think is the better game. Is Zelda 2 a better game?
I think so. I do. I think it does enough interesting and different overall. I think it's a better game.
Yeah, I agree. You win. Yeah, that's the right spot.
All right.
Lynx crossbow training.
That's the one that I put dead last.
What?
Yeah.
You're crazy.
It's not a game.
This game
it's not even a game.
This game is so much fun.
Yeah, but it's not a game. It's not even a thing.
It really is, though.
No.
I understand that you do not like the Wii, but seriously, this game's really good.
I found it unplayable because I found almost everything on the Wii unplayable. And again, that was my setup of where it was in my house and all of the different things that I tried to do to get it to where I just could never get it to where nope. I'm out.
I had a blast with this game. Pun very much intended. I put this game above Four Swords.
Really?
Because
I was going to say I could see it below Four Swords, but I suppose I can understand your argument for that, and I'm not going to fight you on it. I am not a good judge of that game.
Here's how I feel about this game. This fits in the same category as the Nelsonic Watch and the Game & Watch, right? This is a simple, action target shooting kind of game.
Yeah.
But it succeeds at doing what it sets out to do very, very well. And I think it's pretty clever. And I think it's more playable. The original Four Swords, there's a certain jank to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that exists in Link's crossbow training. So
all right, I'm good with it.
I will more happily go back and play this over Majora's Mask, but I cannot in good conscience say that it's a better game than Majora's Mask.
Right, I mean, you just, no.
But
and that's really the last one of these where it's like, all right, this is not a game that can go above Majora's Mask. Like, the rest of these, there's an argument to be made.
Okay. Link's crossbow training. All right, we're 20 games in. This is going well. This is
going well.
Skyward Sword. This is a hard one for me to place. I have a lot of mixed feelings on this game, and I'm very excited for the remake. very excited for playing this with standard controls. Very excited to play it in HD. I love the story of this game. I love what it does right, but it also makes a lot of the same mistakes as Twilight Princess.
So we know that I have not played this one. Because I saw enough reviews looking at it to be like, well, one, I couldn't play it because of the way my shit works, and two, if I did play it, I would hate it just because I hate all that wiggly shit. So for me, I would put it below Majora's Mask.
See, now I'm looking at this like if I'm just looking at from visually, I think it destroys Majora's Mask. From a
that's not even a question.
Mythology standpoint, story-wise, I think it also destroys Majora's Mask. I think it just tells a way better story. Majora's Mask is super, super interesting, but I love this iteration of Zelda. I'm not as enthralled by the Skull Kid as other folks are, and the weird giants that catch the moon. If I'm choosing between the weird imprisoned versus the whatever that catches the moon, yeah, I still no. I definitely put this game above Majora's Mask. I also I put it above the Oracle of Ages and Seasons because this game definitely does its own thing. Where the Oracle,
I think that's fair.
The Oracle games are both incredibly derivative of Link's Awakening, so I think
that's fair
in sheer terms of creativity. Then we come to Minish Cap. I have the same argument. I beat this game, and I remember it fondly. I've never finished Minish Cap. Now, Minish Cap probably doesn't have the padding that this game has, but really, I look at this game and I have to compare it directly to Twilight Princess, because that's where I kind of feel this game the most. And I feel like I like this game more than Twilight Princess, but because this also has crap like dowsing, and it has crap like the collecting orbs. It's a very similar thing to like the collecting orbs, like there is in Twilight Princess. The last boss fight is pretty cool. With I think Demise is the character who basically looks like Akuma. It was like the spirit that eventually inhabits and becomes Ganon as the Triforce of Power in this whole triangle of whatever. And in the Zelda lore, I like the lore of this game. I like this iteration of Zelda herself. It's also got her super cool version of Impa.
I feel like this is one where once that remake comes out, I feel like this would end up in like the 5 or 6 spot.
I think it's still under Zelda. I think I put this one, just for me personally, I kind of feel like it goes right above Twilight Princess, because I still don't think it beats the original Zelda as an overall experience, and it's got all these weird padding issues that Ocarina of Time doesn't have. But I do have to say that I like it more than Twilight Princess, and I think it's better than Twilight Princess because it's got really good boss battles. It's got really clever puzzles and the dungeons. The world, while it suffers from a similar problem as Twilight Princess, where the world is barren. And you do wind up revisiting the same places a couple of times, though they are changed around a bit. But the places that you go in that, I find more memorable. Like, I remember specific things about this game more than I remember specific things in Twilight Princess, because Twilight Princess suffered from the whole, all right, we're going to be super, we're going to be dark and real and stuff, and now you have these areas that have a very similar look to them, whereas Skyward Sword, like, I remember fighting a skeleton pirate on a really thin bridge. I remember seeking out fights in Skyward Sword. Right. When Astolfo would, because, I was in a situation where the Wii Motion Plus was working for me perfectly. So if there was a Astolfo coming up, it'd be like, let's do this. And I'd get there and I'd be sitting up in my chair, like ready to block and to swing my sword in the right direction to counteract where his sword and shield was. And it reminded me so much of those Iron Knuckle fights in Adventure of Link, which are my favorite things about that game, but done better. So in an optimal situation where this thing works, I feel like it's got to be above Zelda 2, and I just like it better than Twilight Princess, which I know is sacrilege to a lot of people because this game currently is in a period of history where it is getting a lot of hate, and I just don't think
it's one of the more hated games.
And it wasn't at the time. When it launched, it was loved, and now it's like kind of going backwards, whereas Twilight Princess was like loved and then hated and now loved again. So
I'm not going to fight you on where you want to put this one, because I don't have a leg to stand on in the argument.
Yeah, you're not coming from somewhere where you actually played it, and I know that it's less of a popular opinion, but I'm not here for popularity. I do think that I think this is a better game than Twilight Princess overall. God, that's hard to say, because then I'm thinking about the ending of Twilight Princess, and what a great character. Midna's such a better character than Fee, though. Girahim's kind of cool.
I feel like it falls behind Twilight Princess.
Yeah, and the more I think about the highs of Twilight Princess are probably higher than Skyward Sword. Twilight Princess doesn't have Groose, but yeah, I gotta put it behind Twilight Princess. And I don't feel great about it, but I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It is a very lovingly crafted game, and I've said this before, that when you can tell how much love was poured into a game, that it's easier to overlook certain flaws because there's a certain spirit in it, and you can tell that this game was made. Twilight Princess, you can kind of tell, was made because this is where they thought the audience wanted them to go, because that's what people said they wanted. And Skyward Sword was made. It was because the whole Wii system was leading up to this game, like Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort. That was all leading up to this as a game, and it really comes through how much effort they put into making this what it was. But I do think that it ultimately falls a little short of Twilight Princess. It's hard.
Yeah, I don't know. I think when the remake of this comes out, it'll be a different conversation.
Yeah, it'll certainly be an interesting one. All right, speaking of interesting conversations, let's move on to the Nintendo DS, where we have Phantom Hourglass.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's interesting. I feel like it's got to go, for me, below the Oracle games.
I think Matt
above Majora's Mask.
Matt Flamger was the one who loves this game.
Yeah,
was he who was saying that in the? Oh, Jamie Hill. In anticipation of this week's recording, Phantom Hourglass is a good Zelda game.
Yeah, I don't love it. I didn't finish it.
Yeah, and I've tried it a couple of times, and here's where my big problem with it is it's hard for me to not compare it to Wind Waker because it takes place in that world.
Right.
And while there is really good music in it, there's a lot of spaces in that game where music is bum 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 bum. Stop. You could do better than that. Stop that. And I didn't think Linebeck was an interesting character. It was and it's ugly. And
it's not as ugly as Majora's Mask, though.
It's not. It's more PlayStation 1 ugly. And
yeah,
if I'm really taking myself out of it, I didn't finish it. As much as I wanted to finish it, I didn't. I just don't think it's great. I think there's a lot of greatness in it, but I'm either right above Majora's Mask or right above Seasons, honestly, because I don't think it topples Ages from what I've played of it, because Ages, I don't know, there's something about Ages that kind of works for me. I've gotten farther into Ages than I have in Phantom Hourglass, but I think that Phantom Hourglass does enough interesting, I think, to put it above Seasons.
See, I'm thinking right below Seasons, but above Majora's Mask. I'm comfortable either way.
I think I'll stick with you on that one, because splitting, it's hard to put it in between Ages and Seasons because they're so similar, but I don't know. I kind of...
Yeah, that feels right.
Below Seasons or above Seasons?
Below Seasons.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you there.
That feels right.
Okay.
It's a good title.
It is.
Phantom Hourglass is a good title.
It is a good title. I just, I wish I liked it more, and, I'll get around to it again one of these days. I bought it on Wii U. Maybe playing it on the TV is going to make a difference to me. I don't know, but yeah, I think 14's the spot for it for now. Next up comes Spirit Tracks, though, and I haven't played a lot of it, but what I did, I liked, and I understand why people like this one a lot more than Phantom Hourglass, and I kind of feel like I want to put this one above Minish Cap.
Yeah, I can. I was gonna say either above Ages or above Minish Cap, mostly because I like trains. So
I like trains.
That is certainly part of it. It has a really good soundtrack.
It does. It has wonderful music, and if I have to choose between Eslo or the idea of Zelda's ghost inhabiting a giant suit of armor, yeah, I gotta go with that one. So yeah, I put Spirit Tracks above Minish Cap.
Yeah, I like trains, man. I'm simple. I didn't love either of them because I didn't like the combat with the stylus. That's just not my thing.
Yeah, I didn't love it either, but I also didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I was shocked that it worked. Because I remember seeing the video, so I was like, oh, I don't think that's a good idea. And then I played it, I was like, okay, that actually functions. Good on you for that. Cheers.
I didn't find it comfortable to really hold and play that way.
No, definitely not.
I wonder now with pop sockets, what kind of difference that would make on some of those DS games.
Yeah, maybe. I'm feeling like playing it on the Wii U is going to be a really good experience because the Wii U gamepad is like, it's big enough to kind of like prop somewhere, and you also have the TV is kind of another big part of it. So like, here's where your action's going, and I'm not like really looking at that. I think it's going to work, but we'll see. I think Spirit Tracks belongs. I don't think it tops Zelda 2, but I do think it beats Minish Cap.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we're on the Wii U. We had Wind Waker HD. We had Twilight Princess HD, and then we had the original Hyrule Warriors. So let's assume the final version, right? We had Hyrule Warriors for Wii U, which was a solid game. Then we had Hyrule Warriors, what was it, Legends for 3DS? Which was, Hyrule Warriors Legends for 3DS, which was like, you didn't need to put this game on the 3DS. That wasn't a great idea, because the 3DS can't handle a Warriors game, but okay, you went ahead and did it, and you added some really hilarious stuff, like the King of Red Lions.
Yeah, that's fun.
You can turn into a boat, and I mean, that's great. But then you had the definitive edition on the Switch, I think was what it was finally called, and that's the version to play. And
I would put it below Majora's Mask, but above Crossbow Training.
Yeah, that works for me.
Because it's still, that one at the end of the day is still a Warriors game.
It is, but it has some really fun Zelda-ish stuff added to it. I kind of like it more than Majora's Mask, but
I don't feel like we can have a credible list if we put Hyrule Warriors above Majora's Mask. That doesn't feel right. As much as I think that game is ugly as shit,
you're right.
All of those things.
You're right.
We are somewhat serious video game personalities.
There is merit to the Warriors games, and I think Age of Calamity is going to be more of a discussion. But Hyrule Warriors, I didn't finish. I didn't get very far in it at all. I played it for a few minutes. It's like, this is neat.
That's funny.
But I appreciate all the stuff that they put into it, which is why I'm going to put it above Crossbow Training, because Crossbow Training is really stupid fun. And Hyrule Warriors,
but it's just Crossbow Training.
Hyrule Warriors is a good Warriors game. It's
right. If that's your jam,
I would agree with it. But it doesn't. I don't think it's a better game than a Zelda game, which is why I still think it falls below Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay, this one's hard. This is a toughie. So we're at the end of the Wii U, and theoretically the beginning of the Switch. We have come to Breath of the Wild.
I mean, for me, I I have still not given it a proper chance. We know how I feel about the sword breaking shit. I just kind of hate that. I would put it personally. I think it would have to go for me in between Link's Awakening on the Switch and Link's Awakening. I know most people think that's crazy and it should go to number 1.
No. I am almost exactly with you on that.
But I think it's below Wind Waker, because Wind Waker doesn't have the annoying... Wind Waker has some annoying shit, but my sword doesn't break constantly, and I'm not, like, swinging an arm around. As funny as that is...
Wind Waker Wind Waker also does the narrative overall better than Breath of the Wild does, because of the pure nature of Breath of the Wild.
Right.
So, but, man, I don't think I can put it above Link's Awakening for Switch. I mean, I don't think I can put it underneath it. I feel like it's got to go right above the Link's Awakening for Switch. But it's a hard choice because Link's Awakening is this wonderful, tight little package, but it's also
a remake of a Game Boy.
It's also pretty small overall, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but God, Breath of the Wild was one of those. I mean, you heard me talk about it for hours. I mean, it was a watershed moment for me. I'm still in awe of how much I enjoyed that game.
Yeah, I think putting it at 3 is more than acceptable. Personally, I would put it below that, but I think 3 is a good spot for it.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Hey.
I definitely it's definitely either 3 or 4. That's a hard call, but if I'm just comparing Breath of the Wild versus Link's Awakening, like not taking into consideration how many times I've played Link's Awakening and how much I love that game and will always love it throughout the course of my life, I'm just putting those 2 games next to each other. And
yeah, it's got to be Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, because you think about all this stuff that you're still seeing popping up on YouTube of like, check this out, I found out a way to launch this Guardian 350 billion miles into the air and then take a selfie while it lands. Like, they're so...
Yeah.
The Breath of the Wild has that whole, like, breakable aspect to it, which is just... Well, it's wild. All right, we're not... The 3D remakes for 3DS, are we considering them different enough to be different releases?
I don't have enough of an opinion on those.
They are... I mean, I kind of think they're almost as... They're not quite as starkly different as Link's Awakening and Link's Awakening Switch, but I do think that they are different enough. Yeah, I think they warrant their own entries, and I think that Ocarina of Time 3D could actually fit between Link's Awakening and Link's Awakening. Okay, because Ocarina of Time 3D is definitely the way to play Ocarina of Time as far as I'm concerned. It cleans up the visuals a lot, and it cleans up a lot of problems with like the water temple. They made the boots a selectable item like they were in Wind Waker. It feels better to play this game. But I don't think it beats... I still don't think Ocarina as an experience beats Link's Awakening as an experience, and therefore the Switch version that's so cleaned up, I still think takes it, but I think Ocarina of Time 3D can fit in between those 2.
That seems fair.
And Majora's Mask 3D, however, goes
right above Majora's Mask.
No, it's worse.
No? It's worse?
It's worse.
All right.
It's prettier, but it's broken.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot.
Yeah. I really want to like it more than Majora's Mask, and in a lot of ways I do, but when you get to those points where you just have these really frustrating things, like the Deku Scrub can't jump as far, but they didn't take that into consideration by moving any of the lily pads or anything around, or the way the swimming just doesn't really work, it's problematic, but I still think it's better than Hyrule Warriors. So Majora's Mask 3D,
it's still a proper Zelda game.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes underneath Majora's Mask.
Huh.
Now this is a hard one. Where do we put A Link Between Worlds?
See, this is the one where I think I think I'm going to be different than a lot of people. I would put that up probably after Link's Awakening.
Switch or Game Boy?
The Game Boy. I would put it at 7, above Ocarina of Time and the original Zelda.
I think with the I think I can agree with that.
It's fucking great.
It really is, and the only reason it doesn't go
great.
higher is because it's not as original as I wanted it to be. Because it's so much of a retread of Link to the Past, and if this game takes place 100 years after Link to the Past, the map should be somewhat different. Some trees should be in a different place, you know what I mean?
Or bigger or smaller.
Yeah, like there should have been more done to the world to make it feel like it was 100 years later. But it's still
I still
good.
hate the name. I hate the name Low Rule.
Yeah, it's got
I will always hate that name. It's lazy.
It's awful.
I don't like. I get it, but it's so lazy.
It's a hilarious joke, but you're making the Dark World, which its physical appearance is the Golden Land, and its appearance was the reflection of Ganon's heart. So how is this other dimension, Low Rule, literally the exact same world as the reflection of Ganon's heart? Because the game started as a remake of A Link to the Past, and then they turned it into something new. And okay.
Right.
Those things are what holds it back. But no, I would agree with you. I'd put it over...
It's fucking great.
I'd definitely put it over original Ocarina of Time, just like you, but I do think that the cleaned up Ocarina of Time, I don't think it beats that. So we're putting it right underneath Link's Awakening or right above Link's Awakening?
I want to see. I went low originally, thinking that there might be more of an argument. I think it should be 6. I can see 6 or 7, but
I agree with
the
you.
Original Link's Awakening,
because it also does that great thing where you do the items in whatever order you get the items in. You know, that's really great, and it doesn't have that inventory problem that the original Link's Awakening has. So I agree with it. And Ravio,
it's really awesome.
What a character, huh? Ravio, that was fantastic.
Ravio's pretty great,
and even Hilda is a cool character, regardless of the whole Low Rule thing.
And honestly, that shadow mechanic is fucking dope.
Yeah,
it looks cool.
It looks cool. I like.
It looks
cool.
Oh,
and the music,
cool puzzles.
The Milk Bar music alone. Oh my god,
it's really good.
Yeah,
I gotta go back and play that again. I haven't played that in years.
That's a real winner. Yeah. No, I think that's a solid spot for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite beat the absolute magic that is Ocarina of Time in its 3DS form, which I wish I could play on a damn television. But it's also not a better game than Link. It's not better than Link's Awakening at its best, but it's better than Link's Awakening at its worst.
Yeah.
Which is still an outstanding game. Triforce Heroes.
I mean, that's below the Oracle games for me. Is it below Phantom Hourglass?
Oh, no, I think it's better than Phantom Hourglass, because this is another one of those things you have to take into consideration the 3-player nature of it. You get three players together, and it doesn't quite hit the highs of Four Swords Adventures, but it's still a pretty good time. I
could see it splitting the Oracle games. I don't know that it can go higher than that.
Yeah, that's a hard one. It might be... I don't think, as an experience, it beats Minish Cap. The question is it better or worse than Oracle of Seasons? And that's a hard one. I think it might actually... I don't think it beats Ages in terms of overall puzzle design and its kitschy nature. Like, it takes... It's very goofy. It almost like it doesn't take itself seriously enough, which I know is a weird thing for me to say.
But it feels out of place.
Sometimes it does feel a little out of place. There's a lot of fun to be had, but it's a little too goofy. The question is it a better or worse game than Majora's Mask, I think? Well, we're putting it over Phantom Hourglass. Yeah, I think we're making the decision right there, because it does have that really fun multiplayer aspect to it. So yeah, do we split the Oracle games with Triforce Heroes?
I wouldn't. I can see the argument for it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I personally wouldn't.
I think I put it above Phantom Hourglass because of the multiplayer aspect, because of how much fun you can have when you got the 3 people working together in this one. But, and again, I hate to malign Phantom Hourglass. I know there's good stuff in there, but Phantom Hourglass doesn't have the
it's not
multiplayer.
As
Zelda
fun.
has that fun, inherent fun thing. So if you're playing this in the right settings with 3 people, I'm gonna put it there.
All right.
Let's see. Then we had Hyrule Warriors Legends, Breath of the Wild. Now we're on Switch. And did that. Okay, we've only got 2 left.
All right.
Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity.
I have zero opinion on this one because I have not played it, but I know it is now canon.
It is canon, and it's. I can't believe I'm still playing it. I do still play it. I finally found time to do that mission just the other day, actually. And I forgot to write that down in my notes, but I was putting off playing it because I knew I had a long mission ahead of me, and I finally played it. And so now I'm kind of sort of back into it. At least until I get my next assignments for Nintendo Force, which are coming right around the bend. But I'm going to try to get a few more missions done before that happens. I really like this game.
Based on your descriptions of it, I would probably put it in between Zelda 2 and Spirit Tracks.
That's unreal. That is literally what I was looking at right now. And I didn't want to poke it in there.
Right?
I think that feels right. I still think Zelda 2, as an overall thing, is still a Zelda game, but Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity really does manage to overcome the problem of being a Hyrule Warriors game. It's just kind of fun, and I do think that it's I would prefer it to Spirit Tracks because I have gotten farther in this than Spirit Tracks. There's something, the game itself is enjoyable enough to motivate me to keep going. I'm either right above or it's hard to it's hard to put this above like full proper Zelda games, but it's not splitting the Oracle of Ages and Seasons, and I think I've put more time into it than I ever have with Minish Cap, and I've owned Minish Cap for a very, very long time. So yeah, it's either right above or right below Spirit Tracks. I don't know where it lands.
I mean, I would make the argument that it goes above. Just based on how you've talked about it.
Yeah, and I think
I'm talking out of my ass here. I don't know.
I think just the fact that this is a this is a Warriors game that has managed to keep me going with it, is just that enough is enough of a badge to put it above Spirit Tracks. No, I think that's a good spot for it. Okay.
And the last one.
Boy, I have no idea what to do with this one. Cadence of Hyrule. This game rules.
Yeah.
But
well, so
this
here's
game
an
rules,
interesting thing, right? We're 27 games in now. We're looking to hear at number 28.
No, we're not.
And what's interesting,
you've lost the bottom of the page. We're at exactly 30 right now.
Sorry,
this is going to be 31.
This is going to be 31. Sorry, it was the CDI games, so whatever.
Yeah,
but so we're at game 31 here, and what's interesting is that since we put Zelda 2 on the list, Zelda 2 has kind of held the line as proper Zelda games. I mean, minus Four Swords Adventures, but that was just so fucking fun.
Yeah.
But proper Zelda games, and then Zelda games with a gimmick.
Oh my god,
right?
Yeah,
everything below is a Zelda game with a gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Age of Calamity, Spirit Tracks, Minish Cap, Oracle of Ages being developed by somebody else. Other than Majora's Mask, but we both hate that game. So that, whatever. That's fine. Cadence of Hyrule is another Zelda game with a gimmick. I don't think, as good as it is, I don't think it can go above Zelda 2.
I 100% agree.
Break into that.
Yeah, no, it doesn't go that high because it's very cool, it's very good, but it's not as deep. So we're looking somewhere, I think, in the Minish Spirit Tracks. I think I like it better than the Oracle games because it's so creative, because it has this wonderful sense of style. The music itself is amazing. The way the soundtrack works is amazing. just purely on visuals and audio, I think it beats the Oracle games enough in those departments to be above it. So, does it beat Minish Cap? Maybe not. It's really fun, but it's also really fun for me. I can see how, as a concept, it's not something that everybody can do.
Right.
So
yeah, I think in between Minish Cap and Oracle of Ages is the right spot.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most fair place to put this game.
Seems. Or I mean, I could see the argument to splitting the Ages game or the Oracle games with this one. But I'm cool with putting it above it.
I like it better than both of those games. I really do.
Yeah, I can see I could make an argument for putting it in between the two, but I can see the argument for putting it above it. But again, I don't think it, because of the nature of what the game is, I don't think it can go above Minish Cap. It's a good game, and it is an interesting game, but it is somewhat one note.
The Oracle games,
not intended,
and the Oracle games do have that whole like two games that actively tie together aspect to it. So maybe it goes underneath the Oracle games. I think as a Zelda game with a gimmick, it beats Triforce Heroes. But I think it might go right underneath Oracle of Seasons. I don't think we can split those two up as an entity. But I do think Ages is the better game than Seasons. But I think that this beats Triforce Heroes. But I think as an overall experience, we might have to put it below the Oracle games.
I'm cool with that too, because I definitely think Ages is better than Seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that feels right, because like I was saying, I like Ages better than Seasons. I like the puzzly bit better. But they really are one package.
Yeah, it's hard to split them up.
It's really hard to split them up.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So, we've ranked
final list.
We've ranked all 31 releases of The Legend of Zelda. Here we go. At 31, in dead last, the putrid Zelda's Adventure. At 30, Zelda, Wand of Gamelon. At 29, Link, The Faces of Evil. At 28, Zelda Game & Watch. At 27, the Legend of Zelda Nelsonic Game Watch. At 26, Four Swords. At 25, Link's Crossbow Training. At 24, Hyrule Warriors. Technically Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, if you want to call it that, but the whole Hyrule Warriors clan. At 23, Majora's Mask 3D. At 22, Majora's Mask. At 21, Phantom Hourglass. 20, Triforce Heroes. 19, Cadence of Hyrule. 18, Oracle of Seasons. 17, Oracle of Ages. 16, Minish Cap. 15, Spirit Tracks. 14, Age of Calamity. It's a shocker. 13, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. At 12, Four Swords Adventures. 11, Skyward Sword. 10, Twilight Princess. 9, Legend of Zelda. 8, Ocarina of Time. 7, Link's Awakening. 6, A Link Between Worlds. 5, Ocarina of Time 3D. 4, Link's Awakening for the Nintendo Switch. 3, Breath of the Wild. 2, Wind Waker. 1, A Link to the Past. Thanks for letting me keep Wind Waker so high.
It's great.
It is great.
It's Samurai Jack. You're right.
It's
Samurai Jack.
Wonderful.
And that's really hard to beat. I think that is really interesting how Zelda 2 kind of held the line.
Yeah, that was right. I didn't even notice it, but yeah.
What becomes a proper Zelda game versus a Zelda game with a gimmick. And that's really interesting how that shook out.
Yeah.
I think ultimately what this tells me is that Nintendo should stop with the fucking gimmicks and just continue to make proper Zelda games, because we are clearly the authority here.
I'm still thankful for all those gimmicky games, because
sure.
I feel like a lot of those things eventually lead to other cool things, and I want them to never stop trying new things. And if there's anything the Wind Waker taught me, is that never stop trying new things.
Our opinions are bullshit most of the time. Our hot takes are bullshit. We should have learned with the Switch. Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
So hey, that went way better than I expected. That was a lot of fun, and I'm really glad we did it this way, and we will need to do this to more franchises in the future.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of anniversaries this year.
There are.
There's a lot of opportunities for definitive ranking guides.
Yeah, I agree. And this is not an episode topic we need to put a lot of research into. So
no, we're good with that.
Yeah.
Unlike next week, where we're going to talk about something we haven't decided yet.
Yeah, we really don't know what's happening.
I feel like we got to be building towards 350 somehow.
Oh,
350 feels important.
Crap. We're at episode 348. You're right.
Yeah, we're at the penultimate.
Oh wait, I know what next week's episode is. Right? No, wait, no. 350 is going to be the interview. Right? Am I looking at the...
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool.
All right, we'll figure something out for next week.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about Sleepwalker comics next week.
Yeah, just a whole episode dedicated to Sleepwalker comics. It's going to be a hoot and a holler.
And why I bought a Fortnite action figure. Because it did.
Was it Sleepwalker related?
There's a character in Fortnite called 8-Ball, and he's got a big 8-ball as a head. And one of Sleepwalker's villains was 8-Ball, who had a big 8-ball as a head. So I figured this was the closest I was gonna get, and like the Fortnite figures are actually kind of nice in the 6-inch like legend scale or whatever. I really should have showed it to you while you were here. But like it's a decent figure, and it looks like what you might do as a modern update to this really ridiculous Sleepwalker character. Because the original 8-Ball was just a guy in a black leotard with white boots and gloves and a big old fucking 8-Ball. And his getaway car is called the Hover Rack. And it's a hover rack. So, yeah. Anyway.
All right.
Definitively. We have spoken.
We have spoken. We spake, and that's our show. I spake. The ability to speak does not make one intelligent. Just when you thought it was safe to avoid Jar Jar Binks. Join us next week when Dan and I will be talking about video games.
I really meant to think about something today, but I had a training after work for another 2 hours today.
Really?
Ugh.
Here's the thing. Mandatory. I want to do a trivia episode again soon. I really do, but I can't get it together for next week. And the week after that, we have an interview scheduled with the developer of Save Me, Mr. Taco, which he's got a situation going on that I think is really interesting, and I'm very glad that he agreed to talk to us. So that's going to be super cool.
Yeah, it should be really cool.
But yeah, so next week we'll figure something out. Mystery episode. Yeah. Enjoy.
That's right. I said we just go into it with no topic.
No topic at all. It's just
for episode 349. Just fuck it. 7-hour episode somehow.
We're on most social media platforms, and if you want to get in touch with us, we aren't very difficult to find. All it takes is a quick look at our show notes, and you'll see links to our social media accounts, as well as all manner of other fun stuff like a link to our namesake, StoneAgeGamer.com, the Geekade Patreon, which keeps this show running week after week, and more useful links than you can shake a joystick at. This show's theme song, Squared Roots, was written by the wonderful banjo guy Ollie. You can learn all about his wonderful music and more by following the link to his YouTube channel, also in our show notes. And finally, as always, we'd like to thank our intrepid editor, Evan, for making this show listenable for all you folks. We'd like to thank all you folks for listening to this in the first place. That's it, everybody. On behalf of Dan and myself, keep playing games.